Beverly Sartain, and this is the Holistic Coach Legacy Podcast, where you get support in being an impactful and confident coach. In today's episode, you are going to hear a coaching demo. I will be coaching Beth Fisher, and she brought forward decision-making as her coaching agreement. So it is my intention for you to hear how I, as the coach, be with her during this decision. And I actually brought forward the clear or unclear exercise to support her in her decision making. I hope that you get a lot out of listening to this demo. And if you're not part of our Holistic Coach Network yet, I'd love to have you be in there. So request to join using the show notes, and we'll get you into the Holistic Coach Network so you can be around other coaches who are learning to be more confident and competent and doing great work into the world. Many blessings to you. Thanks for being here. Hello, Beth. Thank you so much for being here. Yes. Thanks so much for giving permission for us to be able to record a coaching conversation for the podcast. I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to be with you.
Thank you. You too. So, is there anything that needs to be said or shared before we hop into coaching today?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm ready to go and all clear, ready to jump in.
Wonderful. That's great to hear. So what can we talk about today that would be really great for you?
It's interesting. I often will help people within my coaching or in my life and my sphere with making decisions. And right now it will be the most helpful to talk about that for me. So to be on the receiving end as opposed to the coaching end would be incredibly helpful. And right now I find myself in a situation where, because doors continue to open and I am always somebody who just goes a million miles an hour without often pausing long enough to ask, I think, the right questions. A door opened yesterday, actually. So this is really sort of great timing. And an executive director position opened up, and the recruiter came after me and asked these questions. And I immediately went, yes, of course. And then I went, but is that the right thing to be thinking right now? So everything around that questioning and not frustration, because I'm grateful. I'm grateful that these things are happening. I'm appreciative of opportunities because I work every day around folks that really don't have many opportunities. So I acknowledge that, wow, this is like a good quote problem to have, but yet in that I really want to be intentional.
Well, yes, congratulations just for opening doors or doors that are opening and opportunities. So I just want to highlight that. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
And at the same time, I'm hearing you wanting to be more intentional. And so what is really important about that to you?
I just understand that it's a really important decision overall, because I find myself sort of in the proverbial second half of life. So freedom and schedule is important to me. I certainly don't have a lot of that now. So what I'm really, I think, apprehensive about is, okay, this might be an opportunity. In fact, it is an opportunity, but yet, right, what's the trade-off? Because there's always a trade-off. And it's the unknown. Like, I came to this position where I am now, and that was a giant unknown. I've sort of found my way here. So I have my schedule, my routine. It's not perfect. It's not great. It's really busy and chaotic, but those are all really sort of wonderful things. And so I'm questioning, wow, didn't I just go through this? So there's that. The job I had before this was like 23 years in one place. So I'm not one to shift quickly. I'm very loyal. I kind of like my routine and where I am, but I also get sort of paradoxically bored really easily. So I'm like kind of fighting this internal battle all the time. Like, oh, I really want to have control over my schedule and what I'm doing. And I don't know if I'll have that in a new position. And also the underlying questioning of, is it even the right question to be asking? Do I have enough experience? I just entered nonprofit a year and a half ago. Maybe I have more to learn. So just sort of that left brain battle that is my everyday.
Wonderful. Well, really good insights into yourself. Um, so I just want to acknowledge you for that and just get curious about, what you really want to be leaving with from this conversation today.
Clarity. And I know it sounds sometimes cliche. Peace, I think I'm after, I've taken a lot of years to recognize that I'm always on the go, and I've had to intentionally go in as opposed to externally um, for that piece. And so I've done a lot of that work, and I don't want to really undo that work because that was really important and hard to do. So I walked through that and thought, okay, this is great. I feel really at peace with knowing that I don't always have to be in motion. I don't always have to be chasing another goal. Like I'm good and complete just by being. And I accept that and I believe that wholeheartedly. So then I think, well, great. Then when these new opportunities come, why am I going back into my default reactions, which are, yeah, of course I can do that job. Yes, sign me up. So I'd love to walk away from this call with just this clarity and peace around, hey, this is part of the process. Like you're still in it, or I don't know, just this an unsettling to be settled, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm right there with you. How do the peace and the clarity relate to one another?
For me, as somebody who is very very goal oriented, and I do well with an action plan or a list or just a strategy. So when I know that this is the thing on the table, whatever that thing is, and it might be a day or a week or a whole year, then I work towards that. And that clarity provides me with a sense of understanding how my days are structured and how I'm showing up in the world and kind of just how I'm operating, like what I'm again doing. So that's peaceful to me. Like
Mm-hmm.
working a plan is peaceful to me. It might be busy, it might be too much sometimes, but at least I have the comfort of, and I'm sure it's a facade of control, but it's clear to me this is the path I'm on. This is what I'm working towards. And when that path or strategy or list isn't identified, then I feel very unclear and then unsettled.
Well, you're being very clear now. so,
Good. Good. Thank you.
so
I
that's
try.
great.
Yeah.
So would you say that the clarity comes before the peace or the peace comes before the clarity?
That's a really good question. And I'm trying to think in general when I tend to get like this. It's a little bit of both now. It used to be that I could never get to a sense of peace unless I had clarity and I made some decision. And a lot of times they were too quick to be made and they were wrong decisions. So I can honestly say before I did a lot of inner work, it was just there was zero peace unless I had clarity, right, wrong, or otherwise. Now that I've
Mm-hmm.
done a lot of that work, I can be a very peaceful person and in a peaceful place with being in the discomfort of not knowing. So I can just be like, yeah, I have no idea where this is going to go, but I'm good because it's going to go somewhere and I'm okay with wherever that is because I'm okay right now in this moment. So now I'd say it's like 50-50.
Mm-hmm. So if we were going to scale one of them, which one would you pick to scale? Clarity or peace?
Um, at clarity, I would say, because I know that when I am clear, then the peace will come. And I'm also pretty peaceful right now with being uncomfortable of not knowing, with not knowing
Mm-hmm.
things. So I'd say clarity would be the one to scale.
Good. Great. I love hearing your process and
Yeah.
how you got to that is so
Yeah.
helpful.
Good.
So, when we think about a scale 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest, where are you right now in terms of clarity around this decision that you're making?
7, I would say 7. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And where would you want to be by the end of our conversation today?
Well, you know me. At 11,
Yeah.
I want to be off the chart.
I didn't know you were going to say
Yeah, see?
that.
I know. 10 for average people, right? No, it's crazy. 11. I really want to have some clarity, like, okay, I'm good. I'm not even going to think about this again, or I am going to think about it and I'm going to go after it 100%.
Mm. And how come it needs to look like that?
um, hmm. I don't know why I operate like this, but I do. I think that unless I'm doing something to that level, I almost feel like it's a waste of time. I I know it's not accurate. I know it's not always true, but with big decisions, I feel like I don't want to just sort of dip my toe in. Like I want to dive in headfirst into the deep end because that's where a lot of the learning happens for me is when I don't know, but I love to figure things out. And I love to be thrown in and say, "Hey, we need some help," because I am also a helper. And I just like to say, "Okay, I'm going to decide to tackle this project or this situation, and I'm really going to solve it, if you will." So it's just important for me to put always 100% into anything I'm doing. Otherwise, in my mind, I go, well, then, like, what's the point? What, if you're not doing it to your fullest extent and ability, then kind of why? Why does it matter?
Beautiful. And when you hear yourself saying all this, what do you think about it?
I go, yeah, that's right. That is who. Yeah. I go, I I don't feel badly about it anymore. I used to. I used to apologize for being this way. When I've had conversations like this with other people or mentors and coaches, and even just people I would consider friends, I almost felt sort of chastised for operating like this. Like, well, why does it have to be this way? Why can't you just be good with as things are? And I'm like, well, why can't you be good with more? So it was this back,
Right, right.
it's this appreciation and understanding that it's okay to be wired differently. And as I hear myself say and reflect this back to you, I'm really like at peace with that, with just being okay with, yep, this is how I roll. And I don't want to apologize for it anymore. I have to be more cognizant, perhaps, that it sometimes exhausts me and maybe I don't need to do all those things, but it's my choice to make and I'm good with that.
God, I love hearing you affirm yourself
Yeah.
and just
Thank you.
own it. So that's wonderful. And bringing us back to the scale, so you're saying you want to be at a 10. Does that seem reasonable to get to in our 20, 30 minutes together?
I think so. Cause I think hey, 70%. I'm already past 50. Like, yes, I really do. Because it's not like I'm waffly, right? It's like I, I saw this. This is the crazy thing. I saw this opportunity. A woman has been in the position for 7 or 8 years, and she's grown this. It's all about the nonprofit is about empowering women in our entire state, and I love it. It's to help the underserved and the underprivileged and women who don't know how to get grants or they want to become entrepreneurs. And my heart has always been to inspire women and to help them because not a lot of times has equity done that for us in society. So so when I saw this position in passing, I was reading it like in a business journal. I thought, wow, what an incredible woman. And wow, would I love a job like that. And then I just got busy in my regular job. I didn't stop to think about, I wonder if I should apply for this. I wonder if I should look further into it. I just read it and thought, this is awesome. And then yesterday, somebody reached out to me directly and said, we thought of you for this. And I'm like, oh, could you not have maybe? Like now you're clouding it. So I was immediately appreciative and I felt humbled by it. But then my mind that I thought had already been made up, I didn't stop, um, questioned. And I thought to myself, I always go to this greater, higher power, like, well, if this wasn't me and this is coming towards me, then perhaps it's for a reason. And that's when I get confused. It's like, well, is this the path that I've always been on? And maybe this is the why behind it. I'm pretty altruistic and sentimental, like just a lot of nostalgia. So, and that often throws me off from my regular everyday operation of black and white logical. So, like, I am confusing to myself, let alone no wonder people are like, wow, you're hard to be in a relationship with. I'm like, whatever. I'm like, I'm not that complicated. And they're like, well, maybe I am.
Well, I'm hoping that we could do an exercise today that would be in service to you. So I have something in mind. We could either do a clear and unclear exercise to support you around this decision, or I could continue to ask you some powerful questions and we could move forward that way. Or if there's something else you had in mind about how you like to make decisions and you want to work that through, we could do that. So what's sounding best for you?
Yeah, I like the clear and unclear. I think that's really helpful because when I hear that, I imagine that some questions will kind of pop into my head anyway to try and get that clarity around those things.
Good. Are you somebody who likes to write things down, or do you prefer to just like receive them and kind of mull them over in your head?
In my head.
Okay, cool. So if we do it in your head, the way that the exercise works is it's visualizing like two different columns. There's a clear column and an unclear column around your decision. And you know, if you were going to put the header or the topic of this decision onto the exercise, what would you say that it is?
Well, I mean, the basic is job, but I think there's more to it. I think it's more calling. That's not it either. Am I in the right place? Am I doing what? I hate the word should because I tell people don't use it. Am I where I truly want to be? Am I doing the right thing for me and for others? I don't know. It's a long title, but I don't know how to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah. So where would you like to start with the clear or unclear?
Unclear, please.
Okay. So what are you unclear about in terms of this decision?
If it would be more time consuming and therefore more soul sucking to me, like less freedom, which then takes away that peace. So I know that if this becomes any more time consuming than the time allotment I already have, and I'm pretty stretched thin, that my peace is going to suffer. And I'm unclear about, I read the job requirements and I know the job expectations, but I've not done this job. So pretty much in the unclear column that I'm visualizing, it's like all the bullet points of the job. I'm unclear about what this even, could I figure it out? I'm hopeful. I would like to think so. I have a lot of related experience, but I've not done this job. So to me, it's unclear what my days look like, what my time looks like. It's unclear what effect it would have on my other commitments in the world that I really do find a great sense of peace and joy and satisfaction. So those are the big ones.
Good. Yeah. And there's some beautiful insights already coming through your sharing about what's important to you, and hearing that word peace again. So just reflecting that back to you. Anything else that needs to be acknowledged about what's unclear?
No, I think those are the ones that keep spinning in my mind.
Okay. And then what feels clear about this?
That I love the mission. It's clear that I love to help women. So that's never been a question for me. It's clear that I would be a good potential fit. It's clearer in my current position, more so than it's ever been, that I really do like what I'm doing. It took me a while to get here. So it's clear that I would probably be a little scared/frustrated, like, wow, you just went through this whole process and you're good. Like right now, you've made a path in my weeks and in my days that I can have a little more autonomy than I had initially. And so I'm doing other things that fill my spirit in this role. So that's clear. And when I first started here, quite honestly, that used to be unclear to me. So then I take that over to this potential new job and I go, well, hey, this was unclear before where you are today. So you knew you've gotten through it here. Why wouldn't you be able to get through it over there? So that probably goes in both columns, but it's clear that I like what I'm doing. It's clear that I like the nonprofit world. It's really clear. I love helping people who are underserved. So those things,
What do you
a lot of
like
clarity.
about what do you like about the potential of being a CEO of this really great mission?
I love to lead. So I like the idea of vision casting and taking what's already been paved by a lot of amazing women and expanding that and sort of carrying the torch. Um, I love the idea of connecting with other women leaders across the state and definitely locally in our community to say, yep, I I see you and I know what you've come through. I've been in the business world. I've sort of transitioned over. I'm a mom, like whatever the things are that I've experienced to help other women who this this mission would serve. I feel like as a CEO, it opens doors to be heard and I'd be able to speak to women, and I love to do that.
Yes. So, anything else that needs to be acknowledged about what you're clear about?
Nope, I don't think so.
So, as we talk through unclear versus clear and do this exercise, what do you think?
I am still on that, like I'm 70% clear that I'm really happy, but there's a 30% in me that goes, but what if? I really get hung up on, but what if this was the opportunity and you're choosing to miss it because you out of fear or out of the uncertainty, the unclarity, the potential not knowing. I always just, if something sounds like, wow, this is a really good fit, I sort of beat myself up if I don't at least try.
So, can I share with you? I appreciate your insights there into the process. Um, can I share with you what I heard when you were doing the process with the
Yes, I'd
exercise?
love to hear it.
When I heard you say what was unclear, it felt very mental to me, the mental level, like logistical. And I could almost like see your mind like spinning. And then when we talked about what you were clear about, your energy went up when you said the word mission.
Mm,
And I felt like there was something ignited there around that. So when I share my experience of the process around the unclear versus the clear, what is present for you?
you're gonna laugh, but now I'm like, yes, I agree with you. And my heart like was speaking as instead of my mind, instead of mental.
Yes.
And I do. People have told me that they can see when I light up if I'm talking about something, and like that's the obvious indicator. But right now, I'm like, well, which one was it? When I was clear, I was like, well, was I being clear that I loved helping women, and maybe that was it. But I also was clear that I loved what I'm doing today. I don't know. I didn't write them down.
Yeah, it was when you first went into it about the mission of this new opportunity
Mm,
that you there was like a joy and you kind of opened up there, like I could just tell you were really in alignment with it.
mm, with the new opportunity. Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I feel like a lot of the work that I do right now is very mental. Yeah, and when I speak to people about the role that I'm in now, when it's all of the mental sort of checklist kind of stuff that needs to get done, I talk like I just spoke to you. But then when I'm in front of our guests, like with this the people that this mission serves, then I know I light up. And I think you would hear me be energized, like when I'm speaking to them or about them. And that's the difficult thing. If this was like just a job and it was not really serving people, I think I'd be less confused.
Yeah. And I really think you're bringing up a very important point, because I'm hearing that too. Like, I totally get that you are at peace actually with where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like it's important for you to acknowledge that like if you did move on to something else, it's not because you're jumping ship. It's because you were, like you were saying, seeing what was possible for
Mm-hmm.
yourself. And it seems like there's something about that feels really significant for you. What do you think?
Yeah, that's very true. I do not like letting people down.
Mm-hmm.
And I worried about it when I left a career of 23 years. But what's interesting is that the people with whom I was really close to, I still am, and those doors are still operational. So there's a level of acknowledging, you know what, life goes on. It's not the end of the world. It is business. And if people have the best interest in mind for me as an individual, then I won't be letting them down. And I've had people leave our team here, and it was sort of um, a team, not let down, but right, they were good employees. So I was like, oh shoot, what are we going to do? But yet, on a personal level, I was so thrilled for them because it was an opportunity that really aligned with who they are.
Right.
Yeah, and I need to acknowledge that I deserve that too, and I am.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, that was really helpful to hear because you're right. I don't want to. Well, this goes way back to when people were quick to label for whatever the label was, and I was like, that's not who I am. So I've sort of fought to make sure that people knew that those labels were inaccurate. And I think you're right. I am worried that if I quote jump ship, that's how it would be viewed and labeled as, when in fact that's not what I would be doing.
Right. You would be stepping
Mm-hmm.
up. You would be
Mm-hmm.
stepping in. You would be seeing what's possible. And that's an incredible demonstration to share with other people too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. And as I hear that, then in my mind was already going, and I could still say, stay connected, right? This is clearly something that I could come back and share and still be a part of with the guests, with the people that this mission serves, like on a
Exactly.
volunteer basis, and
Mm-hmm.
just, yeah, I don't have to jump ship completely.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. And you can show them, what it looks like to step into something even greater for
Mm-hmm.
oneself, So I think that's a beautiful thing too. So where are we at in the conversation for you?
For me, I have clarity that I am going to proceed. And I really didn't know that until we talked. Like, I'm going to at least proceed and see where it leads to. And I do have a level of things that are meant to be will be. So I think big picture, it's really helped me to understand I won't have any regret if I go through this whole process and maybe another candidate is selected. Then in my mind, I can close this chapter in the
Mm-hmm.
story and go, you know what? No issue at all. I'm still very much at peace because I'm great where I am, and this was something that I explored, and something else will come along if it's meant to. If it's meant to.
Yes.
Yep.
That's a great
Good.
insight
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you got
Thank you
to.
that exercise was hugely helpful for me. It's like, when people say, well, let's do a pro con list. I'm like, it already sounds negative.
Right. Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because it's a very similar type of exercise, but using the words clear and unclear just gives it a different perspective than using pros and cons. So I'm glad that was
Definitely.
supportive to you. Yeah, and
Yeah.
something that I've just witnessed about you is that you're way more clear than I think you give yourself credit for.
Mm,
And I was sensing like there's some connection for you here to go for
mm-hmm.
this position, and I love that you came up with this perspective that if I go towards this and somebody else gets it, I'm at peace with where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, but if I don't go for this, then will I always be wondering, you know,
Yes,
what might have been?
exactly.
Um, and so it sounds like the way you're intending to move forward will support you in both of those paths. Um,
Yes. Yay. I feel good about this.
good.
Thank you.
How do you know you feel good about it?
Um, it's interesting because my stomach doesn't feel unsettled right now. I feel just like my shoulders like sort of relax physically. I can tell a difference immediately. I'm just not as like tensed up walking around like, a big ball of stress. I just relaxed actually.
Yeah, where did you relax?
Really my stomach and my shoulders. I just feel like I let go of, I released a lot of just tension. Yeah. It's peaceful. Like, see, that's the peace. And my body feels peaceful now. Now I feel like I can go run. This morning I did not even run. That's how stressed out I was.
Hmm.
Uh, Yeah.
What did you let go of? I know
The
you said the
the
tension, but if that had a voice or was symbolic in some way, what was it really?
Well, I think it's what you just said. When you said I have more clarity than I give myself credit for. I let go of doubting myself.
Mm, wow,
Yeah.
that's powerful.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, it's almost like I gave myself a high five. Like, you know what? All the stuff that you tell other people, you deserve to be told. It's this weird thing. It's yeah, whatever it is, but I know it's right. Like, you just when you have that sense of shifting, for me it's a lot of times physical. It's so connected. I just went, "Ah, right. Okay. You remember this. You remember how it feels to
Mm-hmm.
be also worthy." And
Yes,
yes, and able to move
beautiful.
forward. Yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool. Like I almost feel like we did like a mind body spirit adjustment or something, like
Yes.
everything just lined up there for you. Let go
Yes.
of the mind, release the body, and now are connected more with the knowing that you are worthy. Um, so
Yes.
that's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. I think when you are somebody who in life, right, is a helper or is typically the person who's making the decisions, oftentimes you're either too tired to or whatever make them for yourself, or you just are like, I don't know how to do this anymore for me because I'm so busy. I'm like, that's not my role. My role is for everybody else.
Yes. Yeah, and that's why these calls and coaching and just finding your places and spaces to allow yourself to be witnessed and allow yourself to be heard are so important. So I really appreciate you bringing this forward. And before we hop off, I'm curious just, what might be the next step that you take towards this position?
It's filling out a questionnaire and scheduling a second round of interviews. I had a first kind of pass yesterday just to see if it was a mutually aligned fit, and it seemed like it was. So then I got all the subsequent things sent to me, and we were supposed to have a call this morning. And I said, you know what? This is a big decision. Need a couple more days, perhaps the weekend, if you're good with that. And he said, absolutely. So my next step will be to actually take some time and really get quiet as I answer those questions and see what comes forward for me. And then if all seems to be really, like, giving me the same feeling that I felt when I was sharing this with you, then I'm just gonna turn that in and see where it leads.
Good. Wonderful. How does that all feel to you?
Relief. I just feel relief right now, a sense of, like, I know I overuse peace, but relief and peace, like, peace for me means I'm not wigging out. Yeah, and right now I'm not. I'm actually like, "Oh, I'm good. I'm good. I'm relaxed and as chill as I get right now, so this is awesome."
It's really nice to hear you share it because it's just like hopping on the flow, just I'm going to go with the flow here and see where it leads me.
Yeah.
But allow yourself to enjoy the process while you go with the flow here with what's happening. And if it actualizes, fantastic. And if it doesn't, it's just nice to hear you say that you're at peace regardless.
Yes. Yep,
Um,
thank you. That's the result of all that inner work, right? Instead of beating myself up. So if you don't get this job or if you don't win this thing, then like you're terrible. And that's not true. It's just not true. And I really am, after all the work I've done, at peace with always knowing that. And that centers me and that helps me um, at the end of any decision. Now, on the front end, you saw what like a back and forth my head does, but
Mhm.
but knowing that underneath and just really having that as the foundation makes all the difference.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome strengths to pull from. So, as we wrap up here, what would you say is something you discovered about yourself today through our conversation?
That I'm hard on myself. Yeah, that I sometimes frequently hold myself to to standards that I would never hold to anybody else, and in fact would help them say, you know what, that's not it. So I discovered that I still sometimes struggle with like taking my own advice and really just giving myself some grace in all of the life happenings to say, yep, human being, not a human doing. Like that's my mantra.
Yes.
So it's
And
nice.
yeah, what would it look like or feel like to go through this process with the position gracefully?
It would, I think, sort of quell a lot of the um, unnecessary physical like stress points. I think it would, the process itself would not feel as overwhelming. It would feel much more like, hey, this is a good process. This no matter
Right.
yeah, no matter
Yeah.
what, the process is not stressful. It doesn't have to be chaotic. It's just good. Like just go. It's just good. Chill out. It would feel little less up and down roller coastery than what
Mhm.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
smooth sailing.
You got it. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
That's great. I like got a good visual there of you
Good.
just like sailing on by.
Yeah.
Peaceful, joyful, graceful. Awesome. Is there anything else that needs to be said or shared for you to feel complete?
No, no, we covered it. Thank you so much. This was really, really helpful and freeing and just like I said, now I can not carry around all this not knotted stress in my shoulders.
Right. Let that go.
Yep.
Wonderful, my dear. Thank you for sharing yourself with us. And I'm wishing you so much grace and goodness.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope that it was helpful to hear a decision-making process and how that would go down in a coaching conversation. Thanks again for listening and being here, taking the time to be with us so that you can become a better coach. And if you enjoy hearing coaching demos, please let me know by leaving a positive review so that I can know that the coaching demos are important to you, helping you, serving you. Let us know. Thank you so much for being here and remembering always that this is truly a process. It's a path. There's not a final destination, but we can come together and be together and work on being confident and competent coaches together. It's such a great time. Thanks for being here.